The following may contain language that is not suitable for all audiences. It's time for the Low Fact Podcast.
Woohoo!
So does anybody like those gongs beside you?
We have a couple of fans that really love the bells, actually. Or at least two.
Okay.
Two people that tell me to keep you doing the bells.
Well, then I guess that means you have to keep doing the bells.
Mm-hmm. You don't like them, right?
Oh, I don't like them or dislike them. I'm just fine with them.
Excuse me while I snack.
Actually, I don't like or dislike them. I'm pretty neutral on them.
What are the rules for eating and drinking on podcasts?
Well, on our podcast, it's allowed.
I think just in general, it's probably not allowed.
It's encouraged on our podcast.
So we're right in the middle of the Olympics?
Just like one of the first firms I used to work at, or one of the firms I used to work at.
Yeah.
The partners sat me down and they said, okay, well, now we're going to talk to you about our drinking and drug policy.
Uh-huh.
And another partner walked in and she goes, it's encouraged.
For real?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, that's the funny little thing, right? All the folks try to make it seem like attorneys really care about, your mental health and your sanity, and they don't.
No, I think alcoholism and drug use is pretty prevalent in the legal industry.
Really?
Yeah, you didn't know that? You don't have to be sarcastic. You know, sarcasm is the lowest form of wit, right?
I never claimed to have any wit.
Shit, we need a timer.
High or otherwise. So yeah, the Olympics, they're on. They're kind of boring.
Yeah, I said I wasn't going to watch it. I didn't watch it for the first 8-10 days, and then this week I've been watching wall-to-wall coverage. So
8-10 days? What are you talking about? You recorded them all and you started watching them.
Not until this week.
The Olympics were the last 2 weeks.
Okay, well, I didn't watch the first week.
You didn't watch the first couple of days, is what you didn't do.
Yeah. I said I wasn't going to watch it, though.
And you lasted a whole, 2-3 days?
Some bullshit. Just so it goes to show, apparently I don't walk my talk.
Well, that could be part of the thing that I was going to talk about, because I'm getting really sick of the news. I'm really getting sick of a lot of this stuff, and basically, I think our society has kind of gone a little to pot.
Uh-huh.
And
like as in downhill?
Yes. And I think it's because of I don't know if effeminization is a word.
It sounds like a made-up word.
Well, as in effeminate.
Right.
And I use the word effeminate to mean unnaturally feminine.
Not just feminine, which is natural.
Feminine is natural.
Right.
Effeminate is not natural.
Okay.
Which is why you call a guy that acts like a woman an effeminate man.
Right. So you think there's too many effeminate men running around, or just things have become... Well, there's just too much feminine, like no masculine, feminine balance.
I wasn't around when things were overly masculine, I suppose.
Right.
I kind of came into existence and into cognition when things were tipping the other way.
Yeah. So
I don't know how bad things were, except from stories and, stuff about how bad. And I agree. I don't think things should be overly masculine, because that type of overly masculine energy is not very good for people, for individuals, but it's definitely not very good for societies. And I believe that overly feminine or unnaturally feminine, because if they can have toxic masculinity, I can have effeminism.
Is it toxic effeminism?
Well, I don't want to call it toxic feminism, because I disagree with toxic masculinity.
Right. It does seem like a made-up thing.
I mean...
Well, no, it's something that people, they say to you, it's used as, a weapon.
I mean, toxic masculinity, that whole term is loaded. How are you going to sit there and say that a part of you is wrong, is terrible? I mean, that's like telling some kid you're just all wrong.
So yeah, what would be the solution to toxic masculinity not being masculine?
No, the solution would be to not let somebody hijack the premise. You're saying masculinity is toxic? You're saying femininity is toxic?
Right.
They're not toxic.
People can be toxic.
Well, sure. But just saying some attribute is toxic? Toxic beauty? Toxic goodness?
Yeah.
Toxic empathy?
It's a little weird.
So, for all the people that sit there and think that you can have toxic masculinity, I say no.
Yeah, actually, when you talk about it's behavior that's toxic. You say toxic behavior. Someone took toxic behavior and was like, let's just substitute in masculinity.
And so, because we never talk to anybody, I never do. So, that doesn't come into play. But I've been thinking about this quite a lot lately. And, because of the way things are, I think things have swung out of balance too much to the feminine side of stuff. Well, no, things have swung to the effeminate side, the unnaturally feminine.
Right.
And that has really some dire consequences, especially for a society.
Like what?
What do you mean, like what?
What is the dire consequence?
Well, I think we're living in it right now.
Well,
all the topics that get thrown out that people want to talk about nowadays are really just talking about symptoms. Like when they're sitting there saying, well, like with the coronavirus, right? We're in the height of a potential another surge, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the powers that be are very serious about that.
They're not serious about the surge?
They're not very serious about the consequences.
Like they don't care.
How can you claim to care about the population and say, oh, we want you to all be safe and do this, do that? But that only applies to people that aren't like streaming in here.
Oh.
So what, if you're already here or you're here legally, whatever that's supposed to mean.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're already here, then you need to adhere to all these behaviors to help curb or stop the spread, so to speak.
Right.
But if you're trying to get here in an extra legal way, then once you get in, it's okay. We don't care what you got. You can just come on in. And I'm sitting there going, well, if this is super contagious, then why are you doing that? So you're not being serious.
It's either not super contagious or they really don't care.
Well, I'm not even thinking about that. I'm just saying you're not serious. That's like the whole thing where as you know, I think talk is cheap.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
Talk can lead to stuff, but talk without actions is meaningless.
I love talk. Love it.
And that's fine. I like to discuss stuff too, it's totally fine. But, my favorite thing is when people say, oh, you need to identify the problem and then you can, then it gets solved. I'm like, well, no, you don't identify the problem and all of a sudden there's a solution.
That's my view.
You have to actually solve it.
That's my life view, is that talk can solve anything. A little bit. I'm a big fat fan of words.
And there's nothing saying that you shouldn't be. But words by themselves don't do anything.
So you don't think identifying the problem is important?
It's important in that it's step one.
Yeah.
It's not a one-step solution.
But you don't think if you can see the solution that's going to happen?
No. And I'll give you a very Very easy example. Let's say you're hungry.
Okay.
And you say, you know what? I need to eat, right? I need to have food.
Okay.
If you stop there, then you're still going to be hungry.
Okay, that's a pretty good example.
You can't just say, I should eat something, and then you've identified the issue. Now you got to do something about that issue. You have to actually eat.
It's funny that you came up with the analogy as I'm stuffing my face.
Well, it's an easy one.
So how... I want to... So we know what the problem is. What's the solution?
Do it.
No. I'm talking about this specific problem.
Again, do it.
The effeminization thing.
The effeminization? Stop it.
Stop it.
Stop.
That doesn't...
Now,
That...
on an individual
Boy,
on an individual basis, it doesn't really help, right? Because if I think something is unnaturally something, like say someone else's behavior. If I think someone else's behavior is bad,
Yep.
I can just stop talking to those people or interacting with them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I'm the only one that thinks that, then everybody else just kind of ostracizes me, which is what seems to happen in life.
But what if you're right? Like, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. So is the solution just kind of hope and pray that a divine being will take care of me and let them continue to dig holes in my boat?
That doesn't sound like a very good solution.
Well,
I mean, I don't mean to... That's not true.
no, you're totally right. You're totally right. It doesn't sound like a very good solution because
No, but it might happen.
because the chances of your destruction is also pretty high in it.
Well, there's nothing wrong with trusting in God, but...
Well, that's another thing. This is one of those binary things. You either are in control of your life or you are not.
Not binary for me.
Well, because that is a symptom of effeminate philosophy.
That you have control?
No. That it's mixed.
I must have, like, effeminate philosophies then.
Well, I think we all do.
Because I'm like... I kind of like the idea of fate and God's will, but I also like the idea that I can dictate some of it.
Right, that's the
So
whole...
I like the...
That's the whole idea of you can live a life without burden.
Mix and match, I guess.
This whole idea that you can live a life without burden is rather stupid.
So you think the effeminate philosophy is I want all the benefits without any burdens?
I believe so.
Wow.
Because
you can't say that to a woman.
As a young man growing up, as a young male growing up, it was pounded into me by, World War II generation folks saying that, a man's got responsibilities.
Right.
A man's got it, there's times...
But there's plenty of women with responsibilities.
I didn't say there weren't.
Oh.
I'm saying this whole idea that you can live a life just chasing what feels good, what makes you happy, is not a type of life that you can live and gain any happiness or good feelings.
Yeah. That's true. And most people who've experienced that would probably... They would agree with you. I mean, it's not like you get satisfaction from just... I mean, you might get short-term satisfaction, right, from partying and...
I don't think you get any.
And all that shit.
I don't think you get any.
Oh, you think it's empty?
I personally never did.
Well, I had a lot of fun.
I didn't say I didn't have fun.
I had a lot of fun doing that shit.
And that's the only time you had fun?
No.
In fact, the most fun you probably had didn't include that.
I don't know.
And what do you mean by fun? What do you mean by partying?
Like dance clubs, going out, dancing, going to music festivals, doing all that stuff that you do when you're young. Well, maybe, you didn't do any of that, but that's what, a lot of people do when they're young.
Right.
And it's like no responsibilities, just fucking,
So really,
drinking, smoking weed.
Wasn't it really the fact that you thought you had no responsibilities that was the fun part?
I never really thought about it at the time, but yeah, I guess, yeah.
Well, think about it now. It wasn't the dancing that was fun. It was the fact that you felt carefree.
I feel carefree when I'm dancing, though, Dave.
Yeah, but you can feel carefree doing just about anything.
No, like, for me, it's all about, like, dancing. It's all, yeah, I guess that's true. That's true.
I'm saying that you're confusing.
Oh, what? I'm confusing fun?
Well, you're equating dancing with fun, and then when I hear you talk about this stuff, it's not the dancing that you were in love with. It was this carefree feeling, this going out and just being carefree.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, you can't do that too much in order for it to stay.
Oh, you mean if you like did it all the time, it would become a chore?
No, if you can't always feel carefree.
Yeah, well, that's true.
You shouldn't, because then being carefree has no allure.
Yeah.
If you're always carefree, then I don't know, after a week, 2 weeks.
So you're saying if you live a life of taking care of your responsibility and no,
I'm not talking about that at all.
Okay.
I'm just talking about this one particular thing.
Okay.
You know, this one thing of trying to always be carefree, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, the always looking for the good feelings. Any drug addict will tell you.
Yeah.
That one time that I tried it was super great. And I never felt that way again, ever.
Yeah, it's usually the first time.
And now you're addicted. You're some kind of like prostitute. You're stealing stuff just to get some more drugs to feel whatever it is you felt that first time. And it's just not happening, and your life is just kind of destructing.
You sure paint a pretty negative picture of drug use, Dave.
I hope so.
Well, not all drug use is like that.
What?
Not all drug use is like that.
Well, okay, yeah, that's an extreme, right? But you don't want to get there.
Yeah, no, probably not. Selling your body for drugs.
I mean, dude, who would want to? No one wants to be there.
A prostitute for drugs. That's
even this whole idea that they're trying to normalize porn watching and sexual addiction, or just sexual stuff.
Yeah.
How is it's not that fun watching it. I can't see how it'd be fun doing it.
Being in porn, you mean?
Yeah, that's gotta be one of the worst things in the world.
Yeah.
Even pro athletes, man. I mean, that's a shitty life.
Well, fame is hard. I would think that fame would suck.
I'm sure. I'm not chasing after it, so I don't know.
Can't fucking go anywhere.
But, this whole idea, it's like the whole idea that people have, like, if I had enough money, then everything would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a real naive, childish way to think about stuff. What do you mean if you had enough money, everything would be fine?
Well, wouldn't it be?
How many people with tons of money do you know that think that things are fine?
I don't really know people with tons of money.
Well, neither do I.
I mean, I know a couple. They generally have seems like their life is pretty, just about like a lot of travel and stuff.
I can't see how that life would be any fun.
Yeah.
Going from place to place, doing nothing.
Oh, I don't know.
I think it would be fun. I think it would be fun maybe in your very early 20s.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's right. I mean, I guess if you're some 50-year-old dude just going to Ibiza or whatever.
Who wants to hang out with you?
Probably people...
Nobody.
Yeah. And then the only reason that people would hang out with you would be probably because of your money.
Well, whatever they can get from you.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think that's necessarily bad. Being a person that's, meandering through middle age, I don't think it'd be all that bad that if there's a
I wouldn't mind doing a little bit of meandering.
That there's a younger woman who wants to be with me because I could provide a certain level of stability and whatnot to their lives.
Yeah.
I'm totally okay with that because I'm wanting something from her too.
Right. That's kind of how it works, right?
And I don't think that a transactional life is necessarily bad. Just like I don't think that, using drugs can be occasionally bad if it gets out of control, which apparently happens very easily.
Yeah.
Thankfully I'm just not of a personality trait that likes that feeling.
Well, I think drugs are an escape, right? Drugs are actually an escape from what you're talking about. From, maybe the fucking harsh reality of life.
Well, it's gonna be harsh, but that's my whole point. The whole idea of trying to live for a certain feeling, and along with that, I kind of wondered why it's become so important for everyone to seem very empathetic.
I didn't even think about that.
When people say, "Oh, so and so happened," "Oh, I don't want anyone to get hurt," or die, or that's just horrible, and whatnot. And I'm just like, do you really think that, or are you just saying that to seem like you're normal, to be accepted?
I think it's probably the latter a lot.
Well, I don't know that there's an answer, and I wasn't expecting one.
Well, that's why I'm answering the question
because
you don't expect an answer. No, yeah, I guess people do say stuff like that a lot now. But I didn't think about whether or not you think it's different? You think it's more expected now?
Well, yeah, because the balance has gone a little bit too far to the effeminate side.
Right.
Oh no, because that was actually an incorrect statement. The balance has gone way over to the feminine side to the point that it has become effeminate.
So you're expected to say that shit even if you don't feel it. I think that's true, actually. It is true. And even if you say nothing, probably if you say nothing, people are going to be
that's
like,
just
oh
as
my
bad.
God. Wow, he doesn't care.
And just the way things are couched, the way discussions are couched, it's a losing discussion. Think about the abortion debate.
Okay.
Why is one side pro-life called pro-life and their side called pro-choice? I mean, that's a bit of a misnomer, isn't it?
Well, it's not going to...
Because they're not about choice. They're about, I want to be able to abort, to kill
I don't think
my baby.
Pro-death is really...
well, then no one would go for it, right?
Yeah. I don't think that's a winning slogan.
But first you have to set out the parameter. You have to be speaking the same language. If someone who's pro-abortion sits there and says, I don't think that that's a living person, a living being, then there's no discussion possible.
Well, they would always maintain that it's not.
Well, but like I'm saying, right? That renders discussion impossible. If if a person on one side is saying this is a life, and the person on the other side is saying no, it's not, then you can't really honestly discuss anything.
Well, there is no honest discussion in that. I don't think on that issue, really.
But that happens with a lot of issues. I mean, see, the people that want mass migration,
okay,
call it a compassion thing, right?
Mm-hmm. These people need to be taken care of.
Well, that skips stuff. If you point out a discussion like that and use an individual as an example, is an individual homeowner expected to let everyone inside their homes?
No.
Why not? Isn't it about compassion?
Yeah, but they're not saying I'm going to open up my house.
Then they're being disingenuous. It's like a lot of stuff I think is really strange in that it requires someone else to do something. That's my big beef with the people that consider themselves environmentalists. Many of them are telling me, you've got to do all this stuff, and they don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Or at least that's the actions that I see.
That's kind of what it looks like a lot of times.
So at that point, I'm just like, well, why is it my responsibility to cover your butt?
I just remind. Was it John Kerry or Al Gore that got put on the spot about his jet? And maybe both of them.
Both of them. John Kerry. I mean,
and John Kerry was like, "Well, I have to because look at what I'm doing.
Well, that's
because I'm me."
That's
basically he said it's because I'm me.
Well, that's the same thing with Cori Bush, right?
Cori Bush.
Yeah. Recently, it came to light that she spent a lot of money on private security. I don't care.
Right.
Right. And she basically like, no, I need to do this because I need to be around because I need to because the police need to be defunded and I'm going to be the one working at the forefront to have this stuff happen.
Right. So I got to have security.
Right. So nobody else needs security? Should we all go into private
security? Cori Bush? Is she the Black Lives Matter person?
She's a congresswoman.
Oh, really?
She's a member of Congress from Missouri.
Okay. It's just so funny.
But just merely pointing out the hypocrisy of people's actions is not enough.
No, because it's like people just ignore it.
I mean, it's like when I saw the stuff about Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck. These people that push environmentalism and this and that supposedly spent a vacation on a $130 million yacht.
Right.
That's just this carbon emitting source.
Yep. Oh, wow. How surprising.
And that also gets me about the people that claim to be socialists.
The wealthy ones?
Well, anybody. I want to be socialist because everyone needs to have stuff.
Right.
But I want to have all this other stuff, but I want to be rich. I'm like, the two don't jive. And thinking that they do is just kind of strange to me.
If you point that out, it's like people are just galactically stupid. It's like almost like it's like even if you pointed it out, they're not gonna.
Well, even if
not gonna get it.
Well, the funny thing is even if you do point it out, only thing that happens is a whole lot of angry people that start taking the discussion into a whole nother area.
So what's the fucking solution then? You just said stop doing it, right?
Well, let's stop being effeminate.
Right.
Realize
easier said than done.
Nothing that I am proposing is easy.
I mean, it's
the solutions are simple.
It's literally like invaded every area.
Right, because it's been going on for like what, the last 6-7 decades?
It's like entertainment, schooling. I mean, there's a bunch of effeminate men running around.
There's a bunch of effeminate women running around.
Yeah.
The problem isn't masculinity or femininity. It's effeminism.
Effeminism. I think that might be a new phrase that you just coined, bro.
And someone might coin it in a different way. Like, oh, do you mean like electronic feminism? No.
Effeminism. Dude, let's how do we protect that word?
I don't think it should be protected.
Well, we might want to use it.
I think everyone should use it.
If it starts popping up like on TV and on the radio and shit, then I'm going to be like, wow.
What really needs to happen, and bearing in mind that if you're one of the people that does it, if you're an early adopter, you're going to be ostracized. You're not going to be able to play. Nobody's going to want to include you in the reindeer games.
What are the reindeer games?
I don't know. I've never been invited. But just know it's going to be tough for a while.
I don't like the sound of that at all.
Well, that's like getting physically fit. You don't go through a montage of one song and go from tub of lard to world-class triathlete.
See, I think I am all about like fucking fitting in with the crowd. That's just a fact, right?
And it's okay, but I
think
that
I bow down to that pressure. Like I say, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to fucking do it. I'm not going to I refuse to do it. And then as soon as some pressure comes on, I'm like, it's just easier to do this thing.
Well, I would think that it depends on what the hill you're deciding to fight the battle on.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what that means, but
Well, okay, so let's take doing drugs.
okay.
If you're at a party and everybody's snorting cocaine, should you do it? I say no.
Yeah, no.
And if they're sitting there saying, "Come on, do it," then I say that's the point where you need to
Leave.
exit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what happened to me when I quit drinking.
Are you left?
I had to. Nobody. Well, actually, there was that, but there was also people just stopped calling.
Right. Because they just wanted to get drunk.
Right.
Right.
Should we call Dave? No, he's a big wet blanket. He don't drink no more.
The cocaine thing I get as well, because I have left situations where there was cocaine and said, you know what, I don't want to fucking do this.
And that's an easy situation. Now, what if it's espousing communism or Nazism or socialism?
I just kind of want to leave as well, but I don't know that leaving solves it, because then it's continuing.
Only if they let you. It's like being like I don't know anything about being in a gang. But the whole story is that
It's probably like being in the cops.
Well, no, it's totally not like being in the cops.
Oh, okay.
But like the story is, right, you get jumped in, and then if you don't like that life, they won't let you leave.
Mm-hmm. That's gotta suck.
Well, how bad and inferior does a philosophy have to be to where you have to be forced to stay?
I never thought about it that way.
And now, bearing in mind, there's some things where, yeah, everyone's got to kind of. I mean, I think that's how the Nazis got so much.
Because they were almost scared as shit.
No, it was because they couched it as a responsibility. They were saying it was like
they took advantage of the German mentality.
Well, they take advantage of any mentality,
but particularly a German mentality, right? The responsibility thing. Yeah. Well, you've talked about this before, the Japanese, the Germans.
I do very much feel like the Germans are very much like European Asians in the terms of their mindset, their cultural mindset.
Right.
But when you say, oh, this is something that we all have to do for the betterment of us, that's kind of what people talk about being in the military is like, right? Mm-hmm. You're doing something to benefit everybody.
Yeah, but it's been turned around now.
Well, no. It's not necessarily turned around. They found out that that's what works. So now you can so then you use it to take advantage of a sentiment that's already there, and you corrupt it.
That's pretty dastardly. I would dare say that's almost verging on evil.
But I think it could be evil regardless.
Why?
Just saying. Killing people is evil, yes. But then saying we need to kill all those people to make it better for us, to make it better for our society, because those people are trying to destroy us. A lot of people are like, oh, okay, I get it. But you can turn that around, like trying to use like there are a lot of places that want to give vaccine mandates.
Right.
And
I was hoping we would talk about fucking vaccines.
Well, and
let's not call them vaccines.
Inoculations, whatever you want to call it, I don't care.
Yeah.
But the conservative folks, especially on the radio, are using the wrong argument, right? They're pointing out the hypocrisy of the airline unions and the teachers unions, saying no, everybody else y'all need to wear a mask, but I don't think I need to get a shot, right? Because the airline unions and the teachers unions are really post office. They're all sitting there going, hey, now you can't make our members get the shot.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Huh.
But they're all okay with, but your kids and all the passengers need to be wearing a mask. It's the same thing.
That's kind of odd,
right? To sit there and say that just means, well, I thought we were all in it together.
Wait, I thought that on the mandates thing, I heard that in some states they're trying to vaccinate kids without parental consent. I think that's going on.
I'm sure it
I
is.
don't know how you would do that without a parental consent.
Well,
I think it would be illegal.
you can't take it back. Look, legal and illegal is a really fine line.
Sounds illegal to me.
It is, but it's a really fine line.
I mean, it's akin to
The law is slow, and I'm glad it is.
But a shot is like a fucking medical procedure.
Just like politics. So's an abortion.
Right, and you got to get parental consent for that too.
No, you don't.
Yes, you do.
You don't need a young female who is underage can get an abortion.
Really?
Without parental consent.
Shit, not in New Zealand. Or maybe now, but not when I was growing up there.
That was the big thing. I mean, that was the big thing when I was going to college. They're saying, hey, how is it that you need parental consent to provide medical care, but you don't need one for an abortion?
Then what? Yeah, it's like, well, if it's a doctor that has to give him an abortion, then wouldn't that constitute a medical procedure?
Well, that whole debate was started by the AMA in the 1860s.
No,
so
I know,
if you want to blame somebody, blame them.
Yeah, but that's just what I'm saying though. Like if you're gonna call it a medical procedure, but then say kids can get it without parental consent, it's just kind of inconsistent.
Well, there's a lot of inconsistency. Isn't the big inconsistency talking about, well, you can't get into mass crowds because they're super spreader events unless you're protesting something, which then it's fine. All of a sudden, then, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just nothing fucking makes sense, dude.
Well, sure it does.
No, it's hypocrisy.
Well, yes, it is that, but things make sense because you're not looking at the right place. Coronavirus, illegal immigration, inflation, all this stuff, these are all shiny little toys that people throw at us to kind of like get us involved in stuff when the real problem is being effeminate.
Wow.